الفاضلة Joanna Truffaut.
My name is Joanna, so I lead digital for the government sector in MENA for EY. I'm going to start with a quiz because I know that you guys are, have a, 3 exciting but also like very long days. And you're hungry, I know, because it's close to 1 p.m. So let's make it easy. So first question to you that I have is, do you think that a government can be digitally disruptive? Yes or no? Don't be shy. Yes, no, yes, yeah? Yeah, you're right. Look at that. This is the basement of the White House. The White House, in the past 5 years, has hired people from the Valley, from Google, Yahoo, Cisco, etc., to revamp the entire digital experience across government entities. What have they done as well? They have also open APIs. They've put code on the internet for government entities to basically use the code and develop services using those APIs. You have municipalities as well that are using the code and using the data that has been opened to basically reuse that data and create new services. And guess what? They are also opening the code and the data to developers and entrepreneurs to create new services on top of that. And actually, some of that is on something called GitHub. So GitHub, for those of you guys and ladies who are coders or who have some knowledge on that, so you can find a lot of the US government programs there on GitHub. Okay, second question. How many GDP points, so gross domestic products, do you think that governments can gain from digitizing payments? 0.5%? More? Less? What do you think? Give me a number. 65? Oh my gosh, I wish we will be all very rich. So let's look at it the other way around. This is the estimated cost of cash on GDP. This is what it is costing right now. 1.7% GDP is costing right now in India. On average in Western Europe, in the Americas, it's costing 0.5% up to 1% GDP. Some countries would dream just gaining 1% GDP right now. Okay? That can be changed. It's just a question of willingness to do that. So I'm sure that you guys have heard of like fintechs, cryptocurrency, digital transactions, and I'm very happy to share with you today a screenshot of the very first blockchain-based application that is going to be rolled out in Tunisia in the next couple of weeks. Okay? That one here is actually being launched by the Tunisian Post. Okay? So these are peer-to-peer transactions between the government and citizens. There's no need for banks anymore on that type of transactions. The fees are going to get lower. So the government is, of course, is going to be making some money out of that because the government is going to take a small commission on the transaction. But when you think on that very, very tiny commission, which you multiply by billions of transactions, can you imagine the effect that it's going to have on the economy? And on top of that, we're talking about traceability of payments. I had mentioned that, the big, problem of ransomware is basically the key is encrypted. There's nothing you can do about that. And the beauty of cryptocurrency is that you have a private key. It's your private key. It's close to unbreakable. Close to unbreakable. I'm not allowed to say that it's 100% breakable, because that's not true. But it's highly, highly secured. Sorry, just want to go back here. On the top right-hand side, top side of the screen, you can see the word map of all of the cryptocurrency projects that are being right now rolled out throughout the world. Other question, is this really possible to reach a 100% digital government? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Yes, of course. Look at Estonia. Estonia does 99% of its banking transactions online. It takes less than 20 minutes for an entrepreneur to register its business from the Ministry of Commerce in Estonia. Over 50% of the drivers in the capital of Tallinn in Estonia pay their parking slots on their mobile phone. And the vast majority of Estonians pay their tax returns online. Let's look at another example. France, a country I know well because I'm French, and actually I used to work for the Ministry of Industry and Economy there. And basically, this is one of the key implementations that we've done there, basically. In France, there is one portal which is called myservicepublic.fr. On My Service Public, I can find about 32 services from which I can transact online. I don't have to go anymore to the service center. Actually, the government has convinced me not to go there. The government has kind of forced me not to go there anymore because the government is shutting down step-by-step agencies. Okay? It doesn't mean that the people, you know, who were working at those entities do not have jobs anymore. No, no, no. They are just, they're skilled, they are trained, and they are being transferred to other type of roles, right? So on that portal, there is one key feature, the change of address, okay? When I move out and move into another apartment in Paris, I go on that website, I enter my name, my new address, and I enter my ID number. When I click Submit, my new address gets automatically uploaded into each and every single government entities with which I am dealing with. For instance, my pension plan, my social security, my healthcare system, my utilities company as well. Which is actually, it's government-based. How much money do you think governments can save by digitizing themselves? In millions or in billions? Billions? Yes, true. This is an estimated savings plan that the Dutch government has come up with since actually 2014. And basically, I mean, so their plan is basically to save close to $2 billion through the digitization of the government. Okay? Now, that has not come overnight. They've started the digitization process back in the mid-90s, but they got a bit more ambitious around 2010 and more. And from 2010, they've decided that by 2017, they're going to become a 100% digitized government. Now, let me give you a regional example. This is savings that we have calculated at EY for a government entity in the transportation sector. And that particular entity has dozens and dozens of service centers throughout the country. And they have replicated, I would say, close to 50% of the services of the service center online. So we've taken one service and we've calculated how much it cost the entity per transaction per person when that person goes to a service center, physically speaking. And that cost the entity, the service center, $14 US. When that same person performed the exact same service transaction online, it is costing the government entity $1.2 US. So where do we start? How do we do this? Usually it comes from the top. If you really, really, really want to fully digitize a government, the ambition starts from the top and it's cascaded throughout the entities. And you can see that across the globe. In the MENA region, what we've seen in the past 3 years maximum, we've seen initiatives from the top. So for instance, the UAE vision is talking about building a competitive knowledge economy, and that is cascading to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So Dubai has decided to basically build the smartest and happiest city on earth by 2020. And they have organized themselves, the entire government has organized itself to reach that goal, to reach that smart city and digital nation goal. Same for Qatar and same for Saudi. The Saudi vision basically was made public about 6 months ago now. 3 key pillars when we talk about building a digital nation. First of all, it starts with building a connected government. It sounds very simple, but that's the basic. It is about how do I, as an entity, build a one-stop shop, digitally speaking, where I can serve my customers without having them to go to various entities with a paper to be able to perform that transaction. When you connect entities together, you have done 70% of the work, because then this is about redefining the front-end part, the service delivery part. But on the back-end kind of perspective, you need to be able to connect with the various entities. So let me give you a concrete example. If I want to create a new business in certain countries in the GCC, I know for a fact that I'm going to have to get stamps, signatures, to a minimum of 5 different entities. There is a way to do that directly from a digital channel by connecting these entities together, okay? And for instance, creating also a unique identification system at a federal or at an emirate level. Okay, and that unique identification system is for life, and that's the one who will basically enable as well that interconnectivity. The second is around building foundations for the digital economy and society. Building a digital economy is about how do you help fostering the proper infrastructure to then build proper digital services on top of that infrastructure. It is about building the proper regulation on a data perspective, on a technology perspective. It's about providing policies, it's about providing guidance and proper governance to put that digital nation in place. And also, no matter how smart your services are, if you've not built the skills internally, if you don't have the people to run those services and actually also to build those services. If you don't have, the people who are properly trained, you're going nowhere. And the third pillar is about engaging with the citizens. No matter how fantastic the technology that you're going to use is, if you're completely disconnected from what your citizens or businesses or visitors actually really needed, you are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on technology for nothing. So you need to properly listen to your customers. This is an example of the various steps that the government of Latvia, which is a small country in Eastern Europe, has taken in the past 11 years on digitizing itself. So in parallel, as you can see, there have been streams around public services, municipalities, education, and health. So things do not happen overnight. They go step by step, but they reach it eventually. What would be the typical approach to basically offer, or I would say to transform the digital experience of your citizens? First of all, you need to start with the vision. And again, it should not be a technology vision. Even though you are technologists, for many of you here, you are able to have also you understand that you need to bridge with the business, and you actually have to have a business view as well, okay? So you need to start from the experience. That's the most important. And is the experience that you're envisioning aligned with the overall government purpose and the citizens' needs? Then you start to design. In the design, you have to be able to answer very basic questions, such as, how is each of my channels performing? What is the drop rate? What is the current customer satisfaction? What is the transactions success rate for that particular service? What are the key channels used per key service, and why? Why do my citizens still go to a service center while I know for a fact that my service that I've developed is available online? So something is wrong there. How many entities have to be visited by my customers in order to complete my service transactions, and how can I solve that? For each selected service, what is the share currently of the digitized part versus the traditional channels? And also, of course, what are the customers saying about their current experience, okay? So in the design phase, in order to proper design, you need to answer those very basic questions, and these are very basic questions. And actually, in the digital world, we should not even be thinking about channels anymore. We should be thinking about disruption, a paradigm shift. But if we are not able to answer those questions, then it's not good. So we have to start from the basics, and that's the basics. Then you need to enable. So the enablement is to basically flush out the initiatives and to build the roadmap. And finally, you need to deliver. In a digital world where there are new technologies coming up on the market every 30 days, you'd better make sure that you're not going to deliver the service on a waterfall framework, because the waterfall framework assumes that technology is not going to change in the next 5 years or so. So you need to test and learn. You need to build through iterations, which means you need to be agile. Again, agility does not only apply to technology. Agility applies to everything we do, even at the strategy level. The strategy level is not fixed forever and ever. You have to adapt. So let's look at some, let's give some key examples for each of the pillars that we've seen. So when we talk about building foundations for a digital economy, let me give you some examples. How do we regulate the latest technologies? If you think of blockchain, well, how are we going to deal with this? Is there any standard protocol for that? Is there any standard framework? How should that be implemented in the government sector? Second example, e-commerce. How can the government help boost e-commerce infrastructure, logistics, services in the country, for instance? What are the policies, frameworks, guidelines that the government can provide here? Intellectual property. When we talk about digital, you usually also talk about innovation. And when you talk about innovation, you talk about protecting ideas. So how can the government enhance intellectual property protection? Ease of doing business. Digital nations usually attract investors. Why do they attract investors? Because, as actually Mike Jones mentioned, I think 2 days ago, nations are not just competing on borders anymore. They are also competing on connectivity. So the more a country will be digitized, the more investors that you will get, because this is talking about ease of doing business and innovation. Digital skills. These are, as I mentioned earlier, no matter how great your plan is, if the people, if the employees, if the graduates, students don't have the proper skills, you'll never, ever become a smart nation. So, 4 things that we need to keep in mind. Number 1, you need to elevate and develop digital skills across the government and across the nation. It's about increasing the competencies on digital services, increasing the female participation in the labor market. It's about creating new vocations. Number 2, protect. You need to make people aware, but from a very early age, from your kids' age, you need to make them aware of the danger of digital. Number 3, how to use digital responsibly. I had mentioned again that it could be anyone. The hacker could be anyone. Actually, I used to be a white hacker 15 years ago. That was my first job. I was hacking. But it's not a black hat, white hat. It can be anyone. And it's usually the people you don't really suspect. So how do you educate the people from a very early age responsibly on how to properly use digital? And the 4th is, how do you help the employees, the students, the kids to navigate through digital data responsibly and skeptically? There is an overflow of data. Look at Wikipedia. Perhaps in one article that you're going to read on Wikipedia, perhaps 30% of the information is actually not correct. So how do you read through that data? Citizen engagement. For me, this is probably one of the most important slides. Because every new service, or I would say every revamp of or creation of a digital channel or service starts with this. How well and how often do you listen to the people? What do they say on digital channels? There are tools everywhere now. It's very easy, okay? You can access those tools, and you should be listening not every 1 month, every 6 months, every year. That should be a continuous process. This is a screenshot of a voice of the customer scan that we did for a government entity in the GCC. And basically, they were concerned about what the people were seeing as a consequence of several measures that they made. And it turns out that actually 84% of the speech, of what people were talking about was about unemployment. Attacks, I will not get over that, but basically, yes, the government sector is a #1 target here as well. The US government So an increase of 1,300% of the past 20 years of cyber attacks. So I would assume that you guys should have like a very strong cyber plan on a nation, city level, and as well as on an entity level. So what are the key challenges to digitization and how can we overcome these? Usually, in the digitization process, these are the 6 key challenges that we encounter. First of all, lack of connectivity between government entities and between government and businesses. The second is, who owns digital at the entity? Is it the CIO/CTO? Is it the CMO? Well, you know what? There's no good answer. Absolutely none. If the CMO, which is usually business-oriented, has a very strong technical understanding and is able to properly communicate with technology, then why not? That person can handle the job. If the CIO or CTO has, on top of this outstanding technology understanding, an outstanding knowledge and understanding of experience and business, that person can also lead digital transformation. So there's no right or wrong answer on that. Lack of innovation. This is something that we've seen in most of the government entities. Number 5 is technology versus experience. I've extensively talked about that previously in the previous slides, but basically technology, we usually see technology-oriented services and not experience-oriented services, which leads to the unuse or lack of use of the digital services. Number 5 is the technology overspend, and I mentioned that. We've seen catastrophe. I mean, you would not believe the millions and millions of dollars spent on technology for functions that will be for barely 30% of them used. And sometimes technology implemented at a wide scale that is not used by actually citizens and businesses. And the last one is basically the digital resource gap. So, we've seen a lot of issues around having really people who have the skills to run the digital transformation program. Finally, 6 lessons from becoming a digital government. Number 1, be clear on the purpose. And in the process of being clear on the purpose, make sure as a leader that you're going to cascade your vision and that cascaded vision is going to be approved and embraced by your immediate CXO and SVP layer. If one person in that layer does not agree or does not understand your strategy, you're going to have a chain in that blockchain actually that is going to be broken. Therefore, the entire cascading process will be broken from the beginning. All companies and governments that have completed successful transformation have had an entire top-to-down embracement of the digital transformation vision. Number 2, the vision needs to be then quickly translated into the experience. What is the experience that we want to offer? And then focus on delivery, 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 delivery. Number 3, think of paradigm shift instead of channel shift. I'm going to give you a very simple example. Probably 10 years from today, we won't be talking about websites, services. Perhaps 10 years from today, we'll be using still our mobile phones, most probably, and we will be actually phrasing our request. Hi, my name is Joanna. I would like to renew the license of my vehicle. Can you please tell me how I can do that and how much is it going to cost me? And please then guide me to the transaction process. This is artificial intelligence. It's coming faster and faster. Companies like Facebook are now opening their APIs, and privately held organizations are starting to use those APIs. Therefore, you won't see probably 10 years from today like standard websites. You will make requests based on the natural language processing. So you need to think about that now. Agility, we've already talked about that, and how do you leverage existing technology, and how do you transform existing technology and infrastructure. Number 5, very important, spark competition. So, whether you are in Europe, whether you are in US, or I've seen that also starting to be implemented in the UAE, agencies, entities compete against each other on basically the best websites, the best mobile applications. So, they are on a regular basis competitions, and then rewards are given to the winning entities and even to the winning department manager that has implemented, or his team has implemented that particular service. And that works. It really does work. The entities that I've seen actually are craving a year in advance to prepare for the awards. Number 6 is inviting diverse skills at the digital transformation table. Invite people from technology, invite people from the business, invite people that actually has nothing to do with your entity. You could invite actually students, you could invite designers, you could invite PhDs, gamers, whomever, architects. Invite people who will fuel you with ideas, and that will help you, make a paradigm shift here. Thank you very much.